It's Niclas. Back in the summer of 2025, I was working on a video called How Behavior Can Save Dead by Daylight. I'd written a script, recorded it, and even already edited the majority of things besides footage and background music. I ultimately never finished and uploaded that video, and that because at that point I asked myself, do I even enjoy the game anymore? Do I still care enough at this point to drop such a long, passionate video about how they could improve the game? The answer was no, which is why I never finished the video and haven't played Dead by Daylight in nearly 6 months. And well, I care enough right now to talk about my problems with the game and why I stopped playing Dead by Daylight. DBD released all the way back in the holy year of 2016, and despite me joining Twitter and Instagram that year, which meant I was finally catching on to things online, it wasn't up until the summer of 2022 that I first played Dead by Daylight. I wasn't hooked right away, and didn't start actively playing until things changed in January of 2023. From that point onward, DBD became basically my main game for the better part of 2.5 years. As it stands, it towers as my most played game on Steam with nearly 2,000 hours, only having spent more time on League of Legends, which I've been playing on and off since 2015. And yes, I know, 2k hours is actually not that much in comparison to many other players, but for me it definitely is. What I'm trying to say is, DBD had been such a major focus of my gaming life and channels for the past 3 years. I made dozens of videos and shorts, streamed it for dozens of hours, especially back on Twitch, and just gave it a lot of time and attention. Which makes this current situation that much more sad and unfortunate. Hell, I even checked my Steam purchase history and spent a calculated €371.67 on cosmetics, chapters, and more. So it wasn't just a lot of time invested, but also a lot of resources. Anyways, let's exactly talk about why I've stopped playing the game, and maybe also answer the question what would have to be done for me to give the game another chance, and how it could become more enjoyable in the future. Chapter 1. The game's premise. Dead by Daylight is a unique game, and that uniqueness works both for and against the game's enjoyment. You see, when it comes to other genres, you're usually drowning in options. DBD is basically the only game of its kind that has had long-time success. An asymmetrical multiplayer game, and that with heavy horror influence, on paper, bloody brilliant. Not only am I a huge horror fan, which made the idea of playing as Myers, Freddy and more super fun and exciting, it was also the asymmetrical gameplay that really caught my interest. You see, by 2022 I had already grown rather sour on League of Legends and stopped playing it that actively, because I was sick and tired of my teammates dragging me down. DBD's premise sounded incredible. You either play in a team of 4 to survive, or you play alone on your own to go ahead and kill them. I thought, fuck yeah, finally a game where I'm completely on my own. I will just play killer, it can definitely only be fun and enjoyable. And well, for the first few hours it's all sunshine and rainbows. But the more time you spend and the more games you play, the more annoying, tedious, frustrating, and miserable the Dead by Daylight experience can and will become. And that for both sides. And that's because this asymmetrical multiplayer concept ends up spawning massive problems to deal with for both the players, but also the devs. And that brings me to Chapter 2, the balancing. This is where the game's premise becomes a massive design problem and the key of the game's many issues. Even your regular multiplayer games are already quite tough to balance. And DBD shows just how fucking difficult it is to balance an asymmetrical multiplayer game. Here the base game premise becomes the biggest problem to manage. It's a 1v4 experience, there is imbalance by default. So trying to balance that imbalance to create a somewhat enjoyable experience for both sides becomes nearly impossible. Like tunneling, which by default and by game design logic is obviously the smartest and most efficient way to play the game is killer, but obviously very lame for the affected survivors, and I just haven't been able to balance it fairly. And despite balancing being a difficult task, it really doesn't excuse just how much of an atrocious job Behavior has been doing. I mean, old school DBD was horrible. I know some are still dwelling in clouded nostalgia, but the balancing on launch and the first 3 years was, you couldn't pay me to play killer back then. So while the game's general balancing and overall health has certainly improved and become more fair and accessible over the years, the state of the game was and still is anything but ideal and on point. Like, you can play flawless on killer side and still get completely fucked if the survivor side also plays flawlessly. That's just how the balancing works, and that is just miserable. And again, I know it isn't easy, if not even impossible, to properly balance, but behavior keeps proving how to misunderstand their own game and its premise. Remember that August 2025 developer update with the horrible tunneling and slugging reduction changes, which would make the killer experience even worse and allow survivors to play even more toxic? Basically punishing killers for playing well and holding the hands of survivors? I don't keep up enough with DBD right now to know what went through and what didn't, but it did drop a rant video about it on August 30th, and if you remember from earlier, August 31st was the last day where I played the game. That developer update was literally my final straw. It showed me that the balancing of this game is going to remain extremely awful and miserable, especially for killer side, which is simply the side I enjoy playing more. And all of this balancing discussion is amplified by Chapter 3, the identity. What exactly is Dead by Daylight? And I don't mean as a horror game or a multiplayer game. What exactly is the game trying to be? For some people, it's a party game, something you play with friends to vibe. For others, it's a highly competitive experience. They're trying their hardest to win under any circumstance. Some play for fun, some play to win, some play because they have nothing else to do, and all of these players are thrown into the same queue. And that is a massive problem. I am not saying they should add a rank queue or something, but the Dead by Daylight experience turns miserable so often due to these different camps of players colliding together within one lobby, and that is a result of the game's identity being vague and undefined. Look at League of Legends. In the core, it's a competitive MOBA. The rank experience is at the forefront. But besides the ranked players, there's a huge amount of players who are only playing normal games without a rank in mind. Others like me tend to play a lot of ARAM, which is a very casual, just sit back and play experience. The game is something for every type of player and effectively separates these players at all times. DBD occasionally offers something like Chaos Shuffle or 2v8 for a limited time. It still results in majority of games turning toxic because players with different ideas and identities clash, which is all ultimately a problem due to Chapter 4, the core gameplay. Like I said earlier, when I first got around to DBD, it took a bit for me to catch the spark and fire, but once it made click I was like, whoa, this is fun. And like I also said earlier, that fun quickly turned into tedium. Due to the asymmetrical gameplay and very problematic balancing, DBD can become one of the least fun games to play and experience. And no, I don't want to 4K or escape in 5 minutes every round I play. It's more like the core aspects that I've started to get really tired of. And that starts with the main gameplay, which is looping. I mean, holy moly, does looping get tiring as fuck. You spend majority of the game running away or chasing someone around the rock, pallet or whatever. I don't know, I've grown tired of it. I don't get how people do this for over 10,000 hours, but it goes much deeper than that. If we look at the survivor side here, because yeah, I mean, you spend most of your time holding one button on a gen. By default, playing Survivor is often very boring for me. And if you then end up having a bad game, which can range from incompetent teammates that don't unhook, troll, give up, rage quit, to toxic killers that BM you, slug you, camp you, it's just not fun. Don't get me wrong, I've had some hilarious moments playing Survivor over the years, and a well-played chase can feel super exciting and provide a lot of fun, but I played solo 99% of the time. And you know how awful playing solo Survivor is. It's fucking miserable. And then we get to the killer side, and here it really ends up being a combination of the balancing and how the survivors play. If the survivors are not good players, you just stomp them and whatever. If they are good players, a healthy back and forth can quickly turn into a very miserable experience. Like I said, some players play this way, others that way. Some survivors will play for annoying mechanics like sabotaging or flashy changes, others will gen rush and end the game before you can do anything. Like I said earlier, good playing survivors will usually get the edge over good playing killers, which just feels unfair and leads to a lot of not fun games. To me, the ideal round of Dead by Daylight would see 10 hooks, 2 survivors escaping, 2 survivors dying. That, on paper, sounds the most fun. Yet even games like that can be anything but fun, because all of these factors that can turn around a DBD for either side super miserable super quickly. Now let me with that get to Chapter 5, Perks, Items, Maps, and Design Choices. This combines the problems with balancing and gameplay. There are so many perks and so many items that are once again just miserable to play against, and so many maps that are just miserable to play on. It's truly the theme of the video. So much in this game feels miserable to experience. If you play Survivor and you get hit with Pain Res or OG Eruption, it's just miserable. If you play Kill and Run into syringes, diptychs, flashlights, many of the broken and not fun perks and combos, it's just miserable. If you play Killer and get sent to Batham, the game, Old Eerie, it's just miserable. And to get back to Survivor, there are so many killers that are just miserable to play against. Kaneki, Legion, Nurse, Oni, boring, and you guessed it, miserable. No matter which side I look, there are so many gameplay scenarios affected by perks, items, and design choices that just make the DBD experience miserable. Which all leads to Chapter 6, Power Imbalance. With all of these things in mind, the powerful killers, items, maps, it creates a huge imbalance that basically forces players on both sides to play what's strong in order to stand a chance. Nurse and Blight have been the undisputed top killers in DBD ever since their respective release. There's meta perks on both sides that are silly not to play, like the majority of perks in this game just suck. If you run them on either side, you will get screwed if the other side brought the strong ones. That's what made Chaos Shuffle so fun to play, and this is especially a problem for the killer side though. Unless you play the top tiers, you will get screwed over. If you want to play Trapper with a casual build, you will get destroyed. You will get like 1 or 2 hooks if even. Only way to play around it? Pick the most insane perks to compensate, or pick an insane killer that doesn't need perks, or just run the most insane killers with insane perks. This obviously also includes add-ons. Majority of killer add-ons suck. There's so much power imbalance that forces you to play the same things over and over to even stand a chance at having a somewhat enjoyable game. Let me bring this over into Chapter 7, Bugs and Performance Issues. This game runs like shit, and that is putting it nicely. I can't believe this game has been out for nearly 1 decade and it's still running in this inexcusable state. Dozens of bugs, many of which have been in the game for years, game crashes several times per week, unstable servers, and despite anti-cheat and many hackers, like calling this a spaghetti code would be an understatement. It makes the League of Legends client look incredible. It's truly one of the worst optimized games I've ever seen, and so many times has this horrific technical state of the game ruined the round of DBD and made the overall experience miserable. You want to know what's funny? This was actually the core topic of my video in the summer, that other than having to fix or at least improve the balancing, the best way to save Dead by Daylight and secure the future would basically be releasing Dead by Daylight 2. It's one thing for gameplay stuff to piss me off, once it's tactical shit I will lose my mind and will to play so much sooner. Would this cost a shit ton of money? Yeah. Would it be worth it long time and make adjusting the game in the future way easier and better? Absolutely. Like, we have been at a point where fixing bugs spawns new bugs, and adding new things causes new problems. Remember what also happened back in the summer? Yeah, that atrocious The Walking Dead chapter release. Like, that earlier mentioned developer update was the nail in the coffin. This is what built that coffin for me, because not only did it once again prove just in how bad of a technical state this game keeps sitting in, it also brings me to Chapter 8, Behavior and the deaths. Remember what came with that The Walking Dead chapter release? That stream with TVD actor Chandler Riggs and Odds, which I had made a whole video about. That is one of many examples of behavior as a developer and its staff and construct operating in a way that is simply incompetent. Like, it's genuinely fascinating how well the game is still doing considering the sheer incompetence of the way things are being run and handled. And like I said earlier, I spent a decade playing League, and even Riot games look like gods in comparison. From horrific balancing decisions and changes, to the way they handle issues within the game, such as game-breaking bugs and abusable aspects, to the way they refuse to listen to proper feedback, and with that I mean listen to content creators and players that actually play the game. Which I'm telling you, majority of the devs don't. And even if they do, mostly just one role. I can't explain some of the changes I thought about in any other way, honestly. Having to deal with constant disappointment and mind-boggling and infuriating decisions from behavior, and its devs just started to feel so miserable. And you know who else is miserable? Chapter 9, the community. Oh my god, is the DBD community miserable. I could name dozens of examples of players being utterly miserable to deal with, and I'm sure majority of you had the same experiences. So many toxic players play this game. On the survivor side, it's the ASV shanty players teabagging at every given chance and running the sweatiest meta build imaginable. They are then also being toxic in post-game chat, which includes players that yell tunneling or camping at any given moment because they don't understand how this godforsaken game works. And like mentioned, this includes the survivors that troll and don't want to play properly, that rage quit or leave early, ruining the experience for the rest. And I'm not even denying that I never quit a game early before. Sometimes there is a breaking point reached. I'm talking about the players that literally lose it at the smallest given chance and moment. Like they get injured 20 seconds in and immediately give up or something. And killer players are not any better, though I would definitely consider survivors to be more toxic, which, given that small survivors per lobby, makes sense to change how to run into a toxic one here. So many players on both sides though that will try their absolute hardest to make the other side's experience miserable, for their own fun, for their own enjoyment. And it's not just that, on Steam I've run into so many racists, bitches, and more. Just so many genuinely awful people. Like there didn't go a single DBD session where there wasn't at least one problematic player. And like I said earlier, I've been playing League of Legends for over a decade. I've encountered a lot of very toxic players in my life, and somehow Dead by Daylight manages to have a player base and community that matches that level of awfulness. These players annoy me more in League because when I play ranked, their losing like actually matters, and awful teammates affect my mood much more. But exactly because of that fact, the fact that people behave like this in DBD, which isn't even comparable in terms of stakes like League of Legends has and provides them, it just makes me lose my mind. And funnily enough, the more I think about my script, maybe I actually kinda get it at this point. I mean, the game hasn't made me act like an asshole in-game, but I can see why it makes people behave this way. Like the way the already awful aspects of the game feel even worse to the others, amplifying them in the lobby is actually ridiculous. The amount of times I've quit a DBD session because not just the game but the players made the experience miserable is unbelievable. And all of that brings me to chapter 10. It's exhausting. And with that I mean basically everything we talked about. Dead by Daylight is so miserable that it became simply exhausting. I literally got burned out from the game. No matter which mode I played, no matter which world I picked, it felt tedious and miserable very quickly. Again, I'm not saying that the game can't create very fun and awesome moments, but not only did those moments become a massive rarity, they will drown under the generally miserable atmospheric gameplay loop and game state. Survivor side quickly feels boring and especially exhausting when you have many bad teammates and run into killers you don't enjoy playing against. Same thing on the killer side, you can run into a bad map, get screwed over by nasty perks, have survivors play dirty tactics that will make the round a really not enjoyable one. It just felt like every time I queued up, no matter what I played myself, there was an 8 out of 10 chance for the next 10 minutes to suck. And with no improvement inside, those few fun rounds every now and then simply weren't worth the misery anymore. Which ultimately brings me to the final chapter. It's no longer worth my time. Multiplayer games are massively time consuming. I mean, fuck dude, I played nearly 60 hours of High Guard since its release. But you know what? That is okay, because the game is really, really fun and enjoyable. Yes, there were some dull moments already, and rounds that felt like a waste of time, but the majority of my time with it has been a blast. And that is the point of video games. That is why I'm playing them, and that's why I stopped playing DBD and other games in the past, like League of Legends for many years. The moment the time you spend with a game is no longer fun and mostly miserable, it's time for you to quit it. I run 2 YouTube channels, work a job, have a pet, got a gaming backlog figured to Talita, I play darts, I gotta take care of my apartment, I have so many better things to do with my time than ruin my mood and end up feeling miserable due to a game that sees players play chase around circles. At the end of every video say, enjoy yourself some video games. Nothing matters more than enjoyment. And Dead by Daylight, due to all of the above mentioned topics, has unfortunately become no longer enjoyable. And because of that, I stopped playing Dead by Daylight. As it stands right now, I will continue to refrain myself from playing the game. I know that a new 2v8 cycle just dropped, which could be fun to play, but trust me, like I said, I have so many better things to spend my time on. Will I ever play the game again? Probably. I quit League of Legends for many years, and there still came the day that desire to play and reliving those happy memories and awesome moments made me reinstall and play it again. Nowadays I play it for a couple of hours every few months or so, and then wouldn't be surprised if that is how DBD would be for me down the road. I can guarantee you that I will never play the game as actively as I once used to ever again. There's just too many problems with it, too many better things to do, and too many better games to play. And with all of that being said, I hope you enjoyed this very long video. If you did, leave a like to show me that you did. Your thoughts on the topic down below in the comments. And if you want to support me, gladly leave a sub or even become a channel member. I would appreciate it a lot. One day we will surely be playing DBD again. Could be later this year, it could be next year. I have no idea. But trust me, I will be playing many awesome games and releasing many awesome videos in the meantime. It's Niclas, enjoy some video games, and I can't wait to see you back soon on my channel.